It is a great honor for me to be addressing you today. It's such an auspicious occasion. It's wonderful to celebrate you, the graduates who've put in so much time. And I want to start by congratulating you and your families for what you will be celebrating today. Today, I'd like to speak to you about coaching, the importance of coaching, and the role it has played in my life. To the graduates, families, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the AGM of the Higher Certificates Corporation. You may wonder why I refer to you as a corporation. If you look up the definition of what is a corporation, they will say a corporation is a business entity that is owned by its shareholders, who elect a board of directors and oversee the organization's activities. Now, I know that my learned friends, who I have many of today, may want to go into a deeper definition and make the distinction between a corporation and a company, but for the purposes of today, let's keep it simple. I want to demonstrate why I call you a corporation. Like any other corporation, there are shareholders. We have equity shareholders, right? Those are the ones that own the corporation. They have voting rights, and depending on the number of shares that are owned by them as well, they have the right to ask questions, and they can also be engaging with the management. These are our equity shareholders. We also have our preference shareholders. On the other hand, they do not have voting rights, and they cannot be involved in what management is saying. They also receive dividends, and they will also be paid out as shareholders at the end of the day. Now, these are the two distinctions I want to make, and of course, we could go into more detail, but let's not, because we want to use this as an illustration. Now that we are on the same page about the definitions and how a corporation is structured, I want to explain your corporation. As it stands, the majority shareholder in your corporation is you, the graduate. You own 70% of the equity shares. Your parents own about 20%. Let's say members in the audience right now are owning about 5%, and your siblings, your friends are owning the other 5%. It is important at this stage to note that although you are a majority shareholder now, holding 70%, your parents were the majority shareholders when you were born. Now that I've painted this picture for you, I want us to touch on what is the difference between a coach, a mentor, and a sponsor, why it's important, and how this impacts your corporation. In a nutshell, a coach listens to you, a mentor advises you, and a sponsor talks about you and acts for you. Many of you are going to have to understand, as you rise in the journey, as you graduate, as you choose to be ambitious, as you choose to climb, in your cooperation, in your company, you will need a mentor, a coach, and a sponsor. I've always recognized and valued the difference that I can get from engaging with others. If you are open to having a coach, a mentor, and a sponsor, it means you are able to put yourself second and say, I am willing to learn from others. I don't have all the answers, and I can grow by allowing myself to listen, watch, and grow from others who have walked this journey before me. Going back to when I started my mentorship journey, it started about 17 years ago when I met a lady by the name of Mandisa Peterson Ntlobo. I went for an interview at MTN. So understand, I stand here being called Dr. President, but many people look at me and they think I just have the gift of the gab. So you need to understand, people who speak well often have to prove that they know how to do the job. I was blessed enough to be hired by a manager who believed in me and from the onset became a member of my board. And when she became a member of my board in my corporation, she then took the role to motivate to her bosses at MTN around why I was the right candidate for the job. The question is, as you grow in your journey, who is that leader who is going to hire you and speak for you and even say, I want this graduate. I believe in them and I believe they are the right person for the job. You've got to understand, you sell yourself to the people who will become members of your board and of your corporation as well. Mandisa moved from being my boss to being my coach to being my sponsor, guiding for me, guiding me, speaking for me, acting for me, even when I am not in the room. The question is, who is your sponsor that will be speaking for you when you are not in the room? Decisions about your career, about your growth, will be made by people who you need to influence, that you need to pick to be part of your board. You will not be able to thrive if you do not have a circle of people who guide, coach, and sponsor you. From being my coach, my mentor, my sponsor, Mandisa became my best friend. And in us building a relationship, I then joined her at Dimension Data, where she found herself in a position to motivate why I was the right person for the job at Dimension Data. Once again, you always need somebody in your corner. And it was also when I was at Dimension Data that we came into a very diabolical situation that tested our friendship, that tested our relationship as line manager, as sponsor, as coach. But in every situation, as hard as it may be, when you are living through it, there is a phenomenal learning and a phenomenal lesson. Never regret any difficult patch you walk through. There's always a learning you get from there. So in Dimension Data, when we were going through this diabolical situation, I was then requested to work with the coach. My sponsor, Mandisa, then introduced me to my lifelong coach, Dr. Neil Rao. Dr. Neil Rao is a leadership coach who I work with. Now understand, my relationship with Dr. Rao has by far been the most pleasant coaching experience. I've had to learn a lot. I've also said to you that I put myself in the second position so that I could watch and learn. So my question to you as graduates, what position are you putting yourself in? In working with Dr. Rao, in me being humble enough to say I can learn from others, I learned about leadership, emotional intelligence, team dynamics, and many other things. What you don't understand is the confident Ntombi you see standing here was once a very self-doubting, weak individual who would not be able to stand in front of you. It is through working with my mentors, my coaches, my sponsors, that I am able to stand in front of you and to encourage you about your future careers. I became a confident woman with a positive self-concept and self-esteem. My coach is now my personal friend, and we share many professional and personal journeys together. I must, however, mention that having a coach, mentor, and a sponsor does not mean that you have to agree with everything they say. Absolutely disagree, absolutely challenge each other. At a point in time, Dr. Rahl and I went for a divorce. We separated from each other. However, relationships that are resilient as ours always find a way to reunite, and of course, we kissed and made up. So for you, the graduates, I want to ask you, who is your coach in your journey? Who is your mentor? Who is your sponsor? Who is saying this is the right graduate for the job? This is the right graduate for this role, for this position, for escalation, for promotion? How are you making sure that you have built your cooperation, your company, that is made up of shareholders that will build, guide, and really make sure that you shine and move up the slippery corporate ladder that we all desire to move up? I simply want to say today, you have a duty to yourself to be the best that you can be. And in being the best that you can be humble enough to work with a coach, get a mentor, have a sponsor. Allow yourself to be vulnerable and humble and be able to learn from others, because no one man has all the answers and no one person is an island and can succeed by themselves. I'd like to congratulate you. I understand that in your board of directors, it may be a challenge to build, but in the same way you have a community around you that raised you, and many of us understand that they say it takes a village. Remember, that village doesn't end when you graduate today. You have to continue building your village in the corporate world if you want to succeed. I'd like to congratulate you for your achievements. I know the setbacks you've gone through. You need to make sure you've got that friend who you can cry on, lean on, because the corporate world, as lovely as it looks, is not an easy way to the top, but it is definitely accessible to all of you if you choose to build a corporation with the right board of directors, with the right stakeholders, with the right mentors, with your family, with your friends, making the right decisions. People you see sitting at the top, many of them have had coaches, mentors, and sponsors. That's the secret to the top. If you can understand that you can learn from others, you too will rise like they have. Congratulations on this momentous occasion. Congratulations on achieving your academic excellence. And please, look after yourself, look after your corporation, and be that leader that we know that you can be by learning from others. Thank you.